the Zoom, I get to say everybody's name because we just went flying past 50 people. Ezini, Jorg, what's up, Jorg? Glenn, Heather, Joanna, Jody, what's up? Welcome, Karen and Catherine and Kelly. Hi, Marilyn Monahan. Good to see you as well. Man, we got a big group of people that are coming. Roy Ponder, my man Roy. I haven't seen you for a while, big guy. It's like a family reunion here. So, Thaddeus, what's going on? Hey, Tracy Coleman, what's going on? I'm gonna
South
pop.
Africa.
We got an international audience, man. I'm gonna pop something in the chat, but Jeff and I are here ahead of time just to say hello. Make sure that you jump in the chat, tell us who you are, where you are, um, and what you do. So, what's up, Jeff Hasselman? How are you?
I'm excited. One, this is unreal. The number of people already in the room, and we're what,
Yeah,
7 minutes ahead of time? I love it.
we have a 500 person Zoom limit, which occasionally we can bump that up. But when you go from 500 people on Zoom, which I think is about $80 a month, to like 1,000 people, it's like $500 a month. Zoom puts a major premium on that number. So generally speaking, we'll have about 500, 400 to 600 people who will show up on a Zoom. So we just keep it around 500, but we hit it.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll hit that limit, and
Yep.
people are like, I couldn't get in. I'm like, I told you to show up early.
That's
What's
not a
up,
bad
Kim?
thing, you know?
From Greater Philadelphia. I grew up in Greater Philadelphia, Kim. I was born in Westchester Hospital, and I grew up in right near the mall in Upper Marion. Uh, Denver, Johannesburg, and South Africa. That's awesome.
Wow, it's so cool.
What's up, Mike from California? Nick is in Greater Philly too. Hey, what's up, Nick? Good to see you. All the Eagles fans in the house. You know,
Is that your team, Ed?
I mean, I had season tickets growing up. They were horrible for most of my life, but they're particularly good now. In fact,
Yes.
they're so good that they're in first in the NFC East and they're having a bad year. You know what I mean? Like they're
Hmm.
not actually that good this year, but they're still in first. Thaddeus from Christchurch, New Zealand. Awesome, Thaddeus. What's up? Thaddeus started mining crypto 6 months ago. Awesome.
Oh, sweet. Nice job.
By the way, for those of you who are joining us, we are going to be talking about cryptocurrency. This will be great for you if you have no idea what cryptocurrency is and you've never even thought about it before. And it'll be awesome for you if, like Thaddeus, you've been at it and mining for 6 months. There'll be certainly some things taught today that you already know, Thaddeus, but there'll be some new things or some new ideas or some new angles on some things. And certainly it'll give some, encouragement to what you're doing. So Ecuador, I see Missouri, Ecuador, and Germany and South Africa. That's awesome, man. So
Wow.
welcome everybody who are just joining us. We'll get started in 5 minutes. I'm going to do an introduction, just pass things over to Jeff, and then we're gonna have a blast today talking about a topic that the truth is, I have been wanting to talk about this one now for years. I've been invested in crypto in and out since 2015, which is actually a long time. I didn't.
You're one of the OGs, Ed.
What's that?
You're an OG.
I know. You if you had a time machine. So people are like, if you had a time machine, who would you visit? George Washington, or would you go see Abraham Lincoln, or where would you go? I said, I mean, I get on a time machine 20 years back and talk to me. I'd be like, let me talk to you about some decisions you should make. Vicky says she dabbles on Coinbase. I'd love to hear, by the way, in chat. Tell us what your experience in crypto is. Like you're a total newbie. You've done some investing, but not a lot. You would consider yourself an experienced investor. Tell us in chat about. So Nancy says new. Kim says total newbie. One of the things that Chris says new. One of the things I've heard Jeff talk about this because he spoke at our last event. If you have never gotten started, you have no idea where to get started. We're going to share how to do that, by the way. But if you Kim says lurking. If you have no idea, you're still even now ahead. Like if you just get started today, you're still actually ahead of the game. Like still an early adopter, which is kind of an interesting,
For
interesting.
sure.
Uh, Ernie says 5 years, but stale. Vicky said got out of it a while back, need to start again. Um, yeah, Sarah says a newbie. Good. That's really, really helpful. Zero idea. Diane says what this is all about. Very good. I appreciate your honesty. A lot of people get, I think the term is shaken out. We're into one of those phases right now. So like
right now.
the whole market has gone down 30%, I think, since highs, right? Isn't that about right?
Well, it went down about almost just almost 30, almost 40%.
So
Not
Bitcoin
quite,
was up
not
at
quite.
like in the 120s. It's in the 90s now, if I'm correct. I don't keep
Yes.
an eye on it
93.
like so what happens is you have these big swings and then you have these big swings down. And a lot of times people get dismayed on the way down. Oh, that's it. I'm out of here. And the really smart investors, by the way, we're not giving you investment advice. We're just telling you stories. Uh, kind of just hang on. You know, this this little phrase behind me is particularly helpful. Let go for dear life.
I love it.
Steve said I invested 34,000 in XRP last year and lost it to a scammer. God told me not to worry about it. By the way, there's a lot of people that I've known, Steve, a lot of people I know who have lost money in crypto to scams. Most of those are phishing scams. You get a text to your phone that says, your Coinbase withdrawal is approved. I've got some that show up on my calendar now, my Google calendar. It's really crazy.
Yep.
And so it's one of the reasons why I use Coinbase too, but one of the reasons I don't recommend using it is because it's like ground zero for the phishing scams. I have a platform that I'll recommend a little bit later on, um, that I'll give you a link for that you actually get a discount when you use it. My man Glenn Hayrow is on here. What's up, Glenn? Glenn
Glenn.
check it out. Mined Bitcoin in 2011, had 1,000 Bitcoin in his wallet. 1,038. Had no idea what the future held. Been in it full time since 2017, but not a
Wow,
Bitcoin millionaire. It's
man.
just that's a fun little story too. By the way, Glenn is on the trading side, so I'll give you his resource as well if you're interested. Um,
Ed, I see Cynthia's from Twin Cities. I grew up in Woodbury, Cynthia. So that's where my family lives. So shout out Vikings, which is not a good thing to say, I guess.
is
But
that you're Minnesota? Is that what you're saying? Minnesota? You're from Minnesota?
yeah, you'll get that accent.
I didn't know that about
My
you.
wife really gives it to me on a few words, which is hilarious. So as you know my wife pretty well, and she gives
Yeah,
it to me a little bit. So yeah.
she gives it to. That's how I think that's how we met actually, because I met Denise before. Wait, didn't we first meet in Napa like
Yeah,
earlier
yeah,
last year?
you met Denise first, and then we got together in Napa.
So for those of you who don't know, Jeff, his wife Denise is a big media personality, big conservative commentator. You'll see her on TV all the time. In fact, that was her job for quite a bit of time of her life.
Still is.
Um,
Still is.
Basically is, yeah. So, and she's going to have her own show. I know that she doesn't at the moment, but I've already seen it in the future for her. It's going to be awesome. So, all right, we're going to get started here. So, welcome, Bill Blaine. What's up, Bill Blaine? My man, Bill. By the way, if you just joined us, jump into chat, tell us who you are, where you're from, and what you do. And let's get going. So, let me just share with you why I think this is so important. And let me just be as direct as I can with you and just say that the world's financial systems were not designed for you. Okay. The current financial system is basically made up. Our current monetary system is built on the trust that's built into the monetary system. And as Jeff will show you a little bit in just a moment or two, in the 70s, in America, we went off any sort of gold, any sort of standard where the money was based on, and we went into a system called fiat currency. Since then, the government has been able to essentially produce and print as much money as they have wanted to. The system is controlled by people who do not have your best interest at heart. And then, quite some time ago, a new form of currency was developed called Bitcoin. Who created Bitcoin? People still don't even know. Where it was created, people actually still don't but even know. But Bitcoin went from being almost valueless. Somebody bought a pizza with 20 or 30 Bitcoin or 100 or whatever the number was, to now
30,000.
30,000 Bitcoin to now worth almost at a certain point a single Bitcoin worth over $100,000. There's no way to create more. There's a fixed supply, and it's a system that people have relied on to create transactions. Since then, the crypto markets have created literally full train tracks for people to be able to process transactions are on. And I will just look you in the eye and tell you that digital currency, cryptocurrency is the future when it comes to money. Now, it may not be tomorrow, but way or another, our current system, I'm just going to be direct with you. Our current system will either die a slow death or it will collapse and completely destroy itself. And the crater will last, 2,000 miles or whatever. One way or another, our current system is coming to an end, which is why there are quite a few of us who believe that God created a new financial system for his people to experience a great wealth transfer from evil to good. And so you've heard a lot of the prophetic people talking about the great wealth transfer. You've heard a lot of the people talking about um, God moving one money from one. There's many of us who believe that cryptocurrency will be central to that great wealth transfer. Anyway, I've been wanting to do this training for some time now, and it just so happens that the time is right. I had Jeff Hasselman speak at our event in November, and it was awesome. Uh, Simply put, there's nobody I know on planet Earth who knows as much about cryptocurrency as Jeff. Just to put it, just to give you one parcel of his credibility, he's the guy that Amazon, that company Amazon, he's the guy that Amazon brought in to build their entire crypto blockchain cloud and literally went from $0 into multiples of billions of dollars building that behind the scenes for Amazon. He's the guy that Amazon trusted to build their crypto backend. Okay. He's worked, by the way, behind the scenes on a whole bunch of projects that you would absolutely know. He was an early investor in Bitcoin, one of the guys out there, I think, really advocating the brand. And he's going to be, I mean, I've already seen this when I pray for Jeff. He's going to be one of the most influential people, I believe, in the world when it comes to the new financial system. So really, it's an honor to know him, but it's a real honor to call him a friend. And so I asked him several months ago, would you just come on and teach my folks about cryptocurrency? And we're going to start at a really basic level. We're going to start with a little bit of history and an understanding of where we are now. My encouragement to you is very simple. Shut everything down. Except for Zoom. I'm not even kidding you. Most entrepreneurs can't sit on Zoom and not like be distracted. What you're going to learn today will be life changing. Okay. Look, there's no replay. There's no second chance. We're going to do this once and that's it. We're live right now. Okay. At 11:05, on the 3rd of December. And so take notes, listen carefully. We're going to be giving you some really great resources that are totally free. In fact, in a moment, I'm going to post in chat what I think is probably the best place if you just want to get started. If you use the link, which is basically my affiliate link, you get $75 free. I get $75, so everybody wins in that transaction. So we're going to show you how to even get started. But more than that, we're going to show you how to understand what I believe is important for every kingdom entrepreneur to understand, which is a new way of doing current transactions in currency. But don't have time to go into this, but I'll tell you several years ago, God gave me a very clear and clean vision about the future of our economy. And I will just be very direct about this. Our current system is built on nothing. It's built on lies and manipulation. And I can just very clearly tell you that God is not pleased with how that system is. Our current system will go away. It will be replaced by something else. And all of this is good news for you, kingdom man or woman of God. It's really, really good news for you. It's something actually we've been praying for a long time, but it's going to be important for you to position yourself to be able to receive in that time of transition. The entire world will be terrified when this happens, but not you, because you're going to position yourself on the place where you can receive blessing. And this webinar is going to help you do it as long as you pay attention. All right. So underneath you, there's a button that says Q&A. Jeff and I are going to have a conversation for about 30, 40 minutes. Then we're going to transition into some resources, how you can get helped. Then we're going to transition into Q&A, and we're going to stick around for about 15, 20 minutes to answer your questions. So if you have questions, put them in the Q&A here, not in the chat, in the Q&A, so that we can see them. All right, man, without any further ado, Jeff Hasselman, what's up, dude?
Oh, and that was quite the intro. I really appreciate it. Let me get my screen up here.
Boom.
Ooh, actually, I need to do one thing. Forgive me on this. Sweet. All right, here we go. So Ed, that was an awesome intro, and everyone, so great to have you here. Looking forward to it. I'm essentially what you get when a hockey player reads the Bitcoin white paper, and fortunately, that happened to me back in 2013, and it's been quite the ride ever since then. So I've learned a lot, and as Ed said, I did work at that tiny book company called Amazon. I founded the business for AWS to help build blockchain or help support blockchain companies. So did that in a number of different ways and got very close with pretty much the who's who of crypto. So it's treated me very well. I'm looking forward to this and just helping educate you. So let's think about this from a standpoint of one thing. I mean, one thing we've always heard, there's two things in life, death and taxes. There's now a third thing, especially here in 2025 and what's gone on the last however long, it's printing money. And
Yeah.
that's something the US is doing a lot of. So when you start thinking about that today, we're going to talk a lot more about what God is doing in the middle of that, as Ed teed this up beautifully. Here's the part I don't want you to miss. God is not surprised by inflation. He's not surprised by financial instability. He is raising up leaders who understand honest scales, sovereign stewardship, and multi-generational wealth. In 2020 alone, just to give you a sense of this, our government printed more money in 12 months than the previous 2 centuries. So think about that. In 200 years of US history, in 1 year, we printed more money in that 12-month period. So just to give you a sense of what that is.
Unbelievable. Man.
So yeah, so it's pretty wild when you start thinking about where this goes and what this looks like and how this is. So again, as Ed said, today we're gonna pull back the curtain a little bit on what's actually happening, what this Bitcoin crypto world is. It's not just about Bitcoin that we're going to talk about today. We'll talk about some others and things on that front. So without further ado, let's kick into this. So yeah, actually, I gotta do one more thing. Pardon me. So yeah, so the beautiful when Ed sent out the email and all that, we saw the thing from Mamdani and everything on the socialist side. So I'll say let's start with something that I call Fantasyland economics. Budgets powered by wishes, not wisdom. And with what's going on in New York and what's happening there, when you think about socialism versus capitalism, I've written a few things about that topic recently, but it really sounds like Disneyland. I know that's one of your favorite things, Ed, when you talk about Disneyland and you want to buy Disney. But when you think about free buses, free childcare, $30 hour minimum wage, free unicorn rides, okay, I added that one. It's kind of a platform that makes people shout, finally, yes, that's awesome. Right up until the point where they realize somebody has to pay for all that. And that somebody is you and I, everyone that's on this call, everyone that's looking at what's going on. But what this is really about today is it's not about New York. This is really about America's pattern and what we've been living in this fantasy land of economics for decades. So you go back to 1971, as Ed alluded to, we left the gold standard, money detached from reality. And then in 2008, we remember the financial crisis where banks were gambling and lost. Taxpayers ended up bailing them out. And then in 2020, as I just mentioned, 4.6 is printed that impacts inflation, and that hits you at when you're trying to put food on the table. So one of the things that when you think about right now in 2025, right now the US is spending more on its debt than on defense and Medicare combined. So just give you a sense of kind of where we're going and how we look at that. So, and as Ed mentioned, my wife is in the political world. She's a political commentator, but politicians, and she's always talking about speaking truth, but politicians promise heaven using someone else's wallet usually, and then wonder why the math stops working. So one of those things that I kind of think about when I start thinking through this and everything, I've mentioned inflation. It's not just an economic issue, that's also a moral failure. When you print money, you don't have the people who pay the price are the ones who saved, planned, worked, and stewarded their money. Inflation silently steals from families, silently steals from you, small business owners, and future generations, all without a vote. So, as Proverbs tells us, the Lord detests dishonest scales, but delights in accurate weights. Back in ancient Israel, dishonest scales stole value in tiny, almost invisible ways, which is the same thing that inflation is doing to your dollar today. So, when money lies, society disintegrates. And when money tells the truth, people usually flourish. So, if Fantasyland economics is the problem, what does kingdom currency look like? How does God measure value? How does God design systems that are truly honest? And why did Bitcoin emerge at the exact moment trust collapsed? To answer that, we need to go to the beginning, the story of money itself. So let's hop into that and kind of just understand a little bit more about money and the story of it. And at its core, money is memory. It's how society keeps track of who owes what to whom. Every system of money is just a ledger, a record of value. The real question is, how honest is that ledger? And that's the question we all should be asking just when we think about any type of money or any type of currency that's out there. So when we started with barter. I would grow wheat, Ed would raise goats, we would try to trade, and we realized very quickly this system works great until it doesn't. Barter was inefficient, it was super hyper local and impossible to scale. Humanity needed something much better. So then we moved on to gold and commodities. Why? Well, because gold required work to produce. A lot different than the barter world as far as what it looked like, but it required work to produce. You couldn't fake it. You had to exert energy and dig it out of the ground. Gold introduced something very powerful. It introduced scarcity and proof of work, which is honest money. But gold had a problem. It was very hard to move. Hard to move gold bars, how to transact, how do you cut a gold bar in half? Can't really do that. It was money with integrity, but not very convenient. So the next upgrade that as money went on was paperback gold. So banks would hold the gold, and then you and I would carry paper, aka the US dollar or other notes that were out there. With that, the convenience went up. So we became a little more convenient. We could trade and do different things on that front. But the trust in the system became the substitute for carrying the metal. Paper was fine as long as gold was actually there. Let's hope it was there. But spoiler alert, it wasn't. And so in 1971, as I'd mentioned, President Nixon ended the gold standard. And overnight, money became whatever the government said it was. We didn't just leave gold. We left discipline, we left constraint, we left honest weights. Fiat money says, we promise this has value. Keyword, promise this has value. Gold-backed money says, prove it. Then came the digital banking era. As far as different parts in that, we've had swipes, we've had credit cards, ACHs, Venmo, super convenient, a lot of different things as far as what goes on to make our lives easier and how we transact today. I use it each and every day, just when I'm making transactions and so forth. But every step of that world increases control. Every payment runs through a gatekeeper. Every transaction requires permission. Every dollar can be frozen, tracked, reversed, or even inflated. So we gained convenience, but we really lost our self-sovereignty. Notice the pattern that's taking place here. Every upgrade to money increased convenience, but decreased truth. We lost scarcity, we lost honesty, we lost discipline. The ledger, the memory of society, became edible by the people in power. So that's where the politics started to come in. And then came 2008, as I mentioned earlier. The global financial system collapsed. Banks failed, governments panicked, money was printed at historic levels, and trust evaporated. When dishonest scales broke the global economy, Bitcoin stepped into the story. So in January 2009, something appeared that had never existed before. Money not backed by politicians, corporations, banks, or bailouts, but truth, transparency, and math, which is a key component to Bitcoin. Bitcoin was the first form of digital money that couldn't be copied. This solved the single biggest problem in digital economics, the double spend issue. So let's take a break here and just think about this. The digital world before Bitcoin, you could copy photos, which you still can do. You could copy audio. You could copy movies. You can even copy identities. But before 2009, you could not create digital money that you couldn't copy. The world needed something impossible, digital scarcity. Bitcoin made that impossible possible. For the first time ever, we had digital money with fixed supply, decentralized validation, an immutable record, no gatekeepers, no political editing, no hidden dilution, and Bitcoin didn't show up randomly. It arrived the moment trust died. It emerged the moment the world needed honest weights. So let that hit and let that sink in. Bitcoin hit us in 2008, 2009, right in the heart of the financial crisis. But how does Bitcoin actually work? Why can't it be changed, corrupted, or inflated? And how does the Kingdom Lens help us understand its design? With that, let's take a look under the hood. So,
So
yeah, go ahead there,
So let
Ed.
me just jump in and just kind of emphasize a few points because I think this is really important. First things first, Jeff mentioned, I think it's Proverbs 16:11. I'm going to read it. A just balance and scales are the Lord's. All the weights in the bag are his work. Let's see, New International Version. Honest scales and balances belong to the Lord. All the weights in the bag are his making. And I'm going to kind of say this directly as I can, which is this: our current system is a violation of God's revealed law. Okay. In as much as you have 10 commandments, there's just some laws that God created in the universe to operate the way that they're supposed to. When you follow those laws, you're blessed. And when you don't, it doesn't work out very well for you. It's as simple as gravity. If you jump off of a building and you don't believe in gravity, you're still going to go down. And because of the system being a violation of God's revealed law, God is not God does not bless over time systems that violate his law. This is why understanding of our current financial system is so important. What Jeff talked about this advent of digital democratized, decentralized currency. Those two words are actually really important. Are there because they're an honest weight and an honest thing. So someone will say, "Oh, Bitcoin's only worth the value someone places in it." Yeah, basically like the dollar. But there are differences to Bitcoin or cryptocurrency than the dollar. The most important is they're not owned or controlled by any government. Those are really important points. And for those of you who have been debanked or know someone who's been debanked, you understand what it's like to be part of that system and not have to operate in the system. Just to be clear, scripturally and biblically, it's not a violation of God's law to use that system. God understands that sometimes you're stuck in a system where there's dishonest weights and measures. It's not a violation, but I'm just telling you that the system simply is. Okay. Now, administrative point. I do have a whole bunch of questions all of a sudden. Appreciate your questions. We're going to get to as many as we can. Some of those questions are dealing with like, is XRP a good use of my money? Do you think this is a good investment? None of what you hear today is financial advice. These are two guys talking and telling our story. Consult a competent advisor or don't, whatever. Use your own big brain. What I will tell you is we're going to talk about different projects. Right now, we're talking about Bitcoin, but we are going to talk about the other decentralized, democratized projects. There's literally tens of thousands of them. Probably the top 20, we'll maybe talk about some of the ones in there. There are definitely some good investments. Well, I shouldn't say it that way. There's definitely some smart ways to allocate your money in some of those other ones, in my opinion. But we'll get to some of that. I know some of you are asking questions. We'll do some of that in the Q&A. Back to you.
For sure. Great call out there, Ed, as far as how you kind of just resurface what I said and kind of put a bow on that. So let's talk a little bit more about what Bitcoin is. If the story of money is the truth, is truth that then became convenience that then led to corruption. The Bitcoin is the story of truth restored. So redemption. When dishonest scales broke the global economy, God guided someone named Satoshi Nakamoto. It's either a person or a group of people. We all have our little things on it, but that is besides the point, to create a monetary system that couldn't lie. First of all, it has digital scarcity. It's the first time in human history that where Bitcoin is the world's first digitally scarce asset. There will only ever be 21 million coins ever created, and no one can change that. It's in the code, it will never be changed. It's monetary integrity. So think about the US dollar. Each and every day we print more dollars. With Bitcoin, they will never go over 21 million. So there's an economics component here where there is no inflation, or as far as what it looks like from a standpoint of Bitcoin. So think of it as gold. You can email, or the name digital gold comes a lot towards Bitcoin. So think of it in those terms when you look at it. The other thing, and Ed made a comment about the decentralization of what Bitcoin is all about. Bitcoin has no CEO. It has no headquarters, no political party. It's a global network of independent computers known as nodes, all agreeing on the same truth. The Bitcoin network, just so you all know, it's the largest supercomputer in the world. So all these computers working together, trying to solve a math equation every 10 minutes, and a reward is handed out to the person or group that solves that problem. So in this world, you don't ask for permission to use Bitcoin. It's open, just like you and I breathing air. Another thing about Bitcoin is that it has an immutable ledger. What's true stays true. Once a transaction is recorded on the Bitcoin blockchain, once it's past that decentralized network as far as and been placed into the blockchain, it cannot be edited or quietly changed. That principle mirrors scripture. Think of Psalms 119:89. Your word, Lord, is eternal. Bitcoin restores the idea that truth should remain truth. And as we move on, one of the key components of Bitcoin is the term proof of work. work equals witness. So there's in the world of crypto, there's this world called mining, and that's how you mine Bitcoin, how it was first created and continues to be created today, but in smaller as it goes on in time. But miners are those people and companies that are working and operating those computers, seeking to solve that math equation to prove the validity of the next block. But in order to do that, they have to expend energy. They have to pay for energy, and that energy becomes security. Because by them doing that real work, it protects your digital truth. So think of it in this term. Proof of work is biblical. Its value must be earned, not printed. In a world full of shortcuts, Bitcoin says no shortcuts. We won't take shortcuts to how we create this and where that goes. So as we think forward, it's also a very open monetary system. So equal rules for the rich and the poor. Bitcoin is accessible to anyone on earth. It doesn't matter what race, what where you are, what's going on. It's open to anyone. A billionaire and a teenager get the exact same monetary policy. There's no insider access. There's no political editing. There's no special rules. So when you think about it in those terms, those five things, think about how broken our money is here in the US. A monopoly bill from 1935 held its value better than a real US dollar. Think about that. Paper money in a game held its value better than money back in 1935. In fact, that $2 that you used to buy that Monopoly game, that actually is worth basically a nickel in spending and purchasing power today. You basically can, and I don't know what anyone can buy for a nickel. It's almost you can buy a pen to the ability to make a penny, and actually they just got rid of that in your hometown of Philly. Ed, as far as what's gone on that side. So when you think about Bitcoin, Bitcoin isn't a rebellion, despite what the media says and everything that's going on. I see it as its repentance. It's a return to honest scales, truthful records, and earned value. Bitcoin restored digital truth, but it also unlocked the next wave of innovation. And I'm a huge believer of builders, having worked at AWS and working very closely with the coolest startups and everyone in the crypto world that has made this world what it is. I love working with builders. That's what Bitcoin unlocked. And one of the innovations that came outside of Bitcoin was smart contracts, programmable money, new networks, new cases. So let's walk through that next chapter of what that looks like. And this is where we'll talk a little bit more about all the other di different aspects as to what other cryptocurrencies are out there. So as I said, Bitcoin restored truth, but Bitcoin was also that doorway. It became the next, what came next were the tools, not new money, but new functions. Everything beyond Bitcoin exists because of one breakthrough, and that's smart contracts. If Bitcoin is digital gold, Ethereum, which was relatively the next cryptocurrency that came out, that is programmable money. So think about smart contracts being automatically executed agreements, or think that code instead of going to courts and having lawyers. The code is what's actually the law and how it's created. So that's where those smart contracts come into play. This enables so many different things of what it can do. And I could spend hours on this next topic, as far the next points here, where what smart contracts can do from decentralized finance. You'll hear the term DeFi. There's ways that you can do loans and loan to each other, but it's all through these smart contracts of what takes place. Tokenization, this is a new thing that's really starting to come up big in the world as far as what's taking place. How do we put assets on chain to know really what's going on? So, be it equities, be it real estate, be it just different types of transactions. So, what's on chain, you know where that is, you actually know what you're buying, which was one of the reasons why the 2008 financial crisis took place. There's also digital ownership. We had this phase where we had this thing called NFTs that went through. This is a few years back. That technology will continue to go forward and be used in many different ways as far as what goes on. But ultimately, how do you automate business logic? And that's what crypto allows you to do. The blockchain and that technology really helps out on that front. So smart contracts turn blockchains from ledgers into computers. That single idea really has birthed everything else we see in the crypto world. So there's a couple of terms that I'll share here. You'll see I have layer one and layer two listed on this slide. But think of it in a couple different ways. So layer ones are like highways. So they're essentially us driving on the freeway, everything on that. They're independent blockchains that handle their own traffic. So Bitcoin is one, Ethereum was one, Solana, XRP, Avalanche. Those are all examples of layer ones, and they are highways. So I know one big thing, and I know Ed's a holder of XRP, so just maybe give a little bit about what that is. there's so many layer ones that are out there, but when you think about XRP, XRP isn't trying to replace Bitcoin. It solves a much different problem entirely. It fixes slow, expensive banking rails and upgrades the 1970s SWIFT system and SWIFT is how money is transferred between banks and so forth, with near instant low cost settlement across borders. So these transactions can go across borders much easier. And with Ripple's doing a lot of innovation as far as around stable coins, which I'll talk about in a second, but it's fully collateralized, it's enterprise grade and purpose built for institutional payments. The XRP ecosystem is becoming a powerful monetization layer for the global money movement. Money hasn't, I mean, when you think of the banking plumbing, it hasn't changed in years.
Let's
And that's what XRP, and I know you would want to jump in on this, Ed,
yeah, I want
just
to
because
talk
I know
about
you're a big fan of XRP, and I know there's a lot of people on the call that are too. So happy to
this
do that.
is good. And this is a good time to just kind of pause and just say some of you have been in crypto, some of you have watched 1,000 YouTube videos and you've been in this game for 10 years. And what Jeff just said is like, ah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Some of you like just heard about Bitcoin for the first time, 5 Thanksgivings ago, and you're like, what in the world is this that he's talking about? Let me give you an example of why understanding this is so important. And I'm going to use XRP as an example, but what Jeff said was, a lot of the crypto projects, let me just put it this way. At the top you have Bitcoin, which essentially is its own universe. Think about Bitcoin as essentially like a way of an entire monetary system built into one whole ecosystem. A lot of the other projects that come below Bitcoin, and by the way, if you go to, I'm going to give you a website in a moment called Kraken. If you go there, you'll see the top 10 projects. Bitcoin's first, I think Ethereum second. I think XRP or Ripple is probably third or fourth. You've got some of the stable coins, which we'll talk about that in a second. So quite a few of the projects are designed. Avalanche is one of them. I thank you, Arlene. I think Jeff used to actually be an advisor for them. Come to think of it, so a lot of them were built not to create a new financial system, but actually to solve a problem embedded in our current financial system. Let me give you an example. I do international wiring. So if somebody from Australia or New Zealand or Scotland or France wants to pay me to do coaching, my coaching is around $50,000. They have to wire money from their bank account in France to my bank account in the United States. Our current system, you might as well put it on a container ship and make it go around the Strait of Hormuz or whatever, and one out of every 10 container ships sinks. That's as antiquated as this dumb, I mean to say it as nice as I can, this dumb old antiquated system. To get money from France to me, they have to use a system called Swift. It's going to cost $75 at least in transaction fees for them to take French euros, to turn it into whatever they turn it into, to send it over. And just so you know, it's going to take about 3 to 5 days in this dumb system. It's expensive and it's really slow. So moving money internationally totally stinks. The whole system's unbelievably broken. So XRP came along and said, hey, we'll create a railroad track where all you have to do is take your euro, it turns it into a XRP token, and then we'll shoot it over to Ed. We'll turn that XRP token into dollars and put it into his bank account. And it'll take about a millisecond and it'll cost about 2 cents. $75, 5 days, 2 cents a millisecond. So they built a system that's fully transparent, that anyone can see the transaction going. And they built it so that they can run through this network of supercomputers that people have volunteered their own servers because they get paid on that system to be able to run it. So there's no central computing. There's no big house. There's no big warehouse that's got all the servers. It's actually completely decentralized, literally sitting in people's living rooms and offices, and it's running through the system perfectly securely because of the way that it's built. And it happens instantaneous, and it solves a problem, which is one of the reasons why people who believe in XRP or some of the other projects believe in those projects, not because it's some sort of fairy Fantasyland, new version of Fantasyland money, because it actually does something. And that's, like I said, one of the great benefits of the cryptocurrency projects are that they actually do things. Like, for example, Ethereum, people run transactions across Ethereum so that they can so that they can save money on processing, right? And so look, even if you don't understand all that, understand that quite a few of the crypto projects are built because they actually do something. They have what's called in the industry a use case. And that alone, because they actually have a P&L, makes them valuable. Okay. And
Yeah.
so it's okay. I'm just giving you permission. It's okay if you don't know anything about anything, you're just getting a foundation for this. And it's, by the way, I'm giving you permission. If you only understand 5% of what Jeff and I are talking about, it's okay. We're just starting. And if some of you know a lot about what we're talking about, that's great. What I am going to do real quick, just so you know, I'm going to post this in the chat. And then, Jeff, I'm going to come back to you.
Yeah.
Many people are like, okay, how do I get started? Again, this is not financial advice. This is me telling you a story. The fastest way to get started is one of two ways. Either you open an account on a website the one that I like the best, I think Jeff, we kind of agree on this, is one that's called Kraken. Okay. It's the easiest and it's the fastest and it happens instantaneously. And most people use Coinbase. That is the most scammed website, which is why I like this one too. And I'm going to give you a link where when you sign up for it, you get 75 bucks for free, which is awesome. I think I get that too to trade with. And the other one I'm going to give you is Glenn Hayro, who's actually on this thing, who's been a friend of mine, runs our coaching program. Glenn has a cryptocurrency trading company. So if you want help, you want to actually talk to someone, I'm going to put his number in there as well. I'm going to give you two links. Okay. My recommendation is simple. Go to a website like Kraken, pick two or three of the top 10 most traded cryptocurrencies and just get started. Now actually is a particularly good time in my opinion. This is my opinion because everything's kind of down. Okay. I mean, hey, it may still go farther down. Who knows? But I'm just saying, like, that's a really good place to get started. I know there's a lot of questions out there. We're going to try to answer as many questions as I can, but I wanted to just kind of kick off and start with that. Back to you, my friend.
Yeah, Ed, I'll add one more thing too. Just think about how I use the highways and freeways, and just think if you couldn't drive on Saturday or Sunday or at night when the banks are closed,
Yes.
you can actually make those transactions take place on a Saturday or a Sunday. So that's the beauty of this is 24/7 and it goes even beyond like that's the beauty. Not only is it get there in seconds, but you can do it on a Saturday or a Sunday. Well, hopefully you're taking the Sabbath off, so we're not doing too much transactions on that day. But just from the standpoint of it is 24/7 and the plan is working all the time as far as how that looks. So that's just to add to what Ed was saying, how he brought that through. So and then I was kind of using the analogy of highways, and so there's this other term called layer two. And the reason why I bring this up is because when you start thinking about how many transactions can take place on these blockchains, so say Ethereum, Solana, and so forth, there's a lot of what's called block space. And not to go way too technical, but we need other ways to do more transactions to be on par with the Visas and the MasterCards of the world. How do you do that? So layer two, think of express lanes. And when you're driving, you're like, oh, I wish I had another person in the car. I could take that HOV lane, do one of those. That's essentially what these are doing. So these are kind of grouping a bunch of transactions that take place on these other blockchains and then write it from a security standpoint into the other one. So just without going too deep in the woods, this is where you get a plethora of other blockchains and places where they do trade and you can make money on them and so forth as far as what it is, but there is a utility behind what they're doing. So they're helping to make these transactions much easier and simpler and at much less expensive costs than it would for you and I doing a wire together or doing a cross-border transaction that could get held up and takes 3 to 5 days, depending on how many banks it goes through. So that's just another aspect of when you think of cryptocurrencies, there's so many different flavors and different types, and that's something where in my career, I've gotten to know I mean, I know the who's who and who's been building all these, and as Ed has said, I've advised many of them and helped them out as far as what they're doing. They're always looking for builders to build and do different things. And at AWS, I was the person that could kind of help them do that. So, which also led us to a new world where these things called stable coins. You may have heard this. There's a number of things out there. And what that means is that it's kind of the US dollar on chain. There's a number of different flavors, but I'll just keep this simple for this particular conversation. Stable coins are essentially dollars on chain where it's pegged 1 to 1 to the US dollar. So there's these coins that are out there that, again, on a Saturday or Sunday while the bank's closed, you can actually transfer and do transactions. You can pay your gardener, you can do a lot of different things, or do billions of dollars in transactions if you're able to do that. You're able to make these transactions using these stable coins that move forward as far as where it is, but they're pegged 1 to 1 with the US dollars or in different versions. So when you go through it, there's a number of them that are out there. One thing to be very cautious of is make sure you're understanding what their economics are and what goes into that. And that's an area that I'm very well versed in and can help out on that side. So, but this is an area where you need to do your education and you need to really understand. So just to give you a sense of where it is. But as the world is evolving, there's just a number of different things from a digital standpoint of where this goes. So just to kind of
Just
look at it from that side. So
super quick. Why would somebody like if I've
yeah.
already got dollars in my bank account, why would I want a stable coin that's a dollar transitions to a dollar? Why is there a value to that?
So a couple of great questions. So a couple of ways is like one, the speed to be able to move that money. So if you wanted to move that, say $1 to somebody else, it's the cost also to move that dollar, unless you take it out of your account and then go pay it in other ways. It depends on the types of transactions. I know a number of people on this call have businesses and they're doing a number of things where they're making payments. So they're doing different things that take place throughout the week and through your behalf. Whereas it's pretty hard to kind of, there's ways to do it, but it's also, there's a cost in a lot of
Yeah.
from the traditional system. But stable coins enable this to, again, do it at different times, different, like again, on Saturdays, on weekends, but at a lot lower cost. And if you're moving billions of dollars, millions of dollars, or whatever the number may be, you're doing this at a fraction, like
Yeah.
minuscule, a millimeter compared to a mile, as far as what it looks like if you make it that comparison.
And you're
So
breaking
yeah,
up
so
just
then,
every
oh,
once in a while your computer's breaking up. So maybe just
sorry
check
about
your
that.
speed test real quick while I say this. You got speed, you also have security, and I have
Yeah.
to say it like um these companies have are more secure than your bank is. I know that sounds crazy, but they're built with essentially real tenants in mind: speed, security, reliability. By the way, there's a lot of questions in chat about about what system to use. Just so you know, I mean, there's hundreds of exchanges online. You can pick whichever one you're most comfortable with. I give the one when I do trading. That's the one that I use. I've also used Glenn and Jesse's company, the coin trading company. I've transacted literally tens of thousands of dollars with them. Like I said, if you want some hand holding, if you need a little help, there's a whole discussion in chat right now about. Please don't put links in chat, by the way. There's a whole discussion in chat right now about wallets. That's an important
Yeah.
part of the discussion. Just so you know, we don't have a lot of time to go into like a lot of details on that. There's a lot of discussion about people getting scammed. That happens. Bottom line
Hmm.
is don't answer any emails and texts or calendar invites. Log in on your own. Don't talk to anyone on the phone unless you call that particular company. Just basics, okay? So anyway, there's just a lot of questions, and I understand we
I love it. That's
more
great though.
details.
Curious. I
There's
love
more details
curiosity.
than we can cover, but I really do appreciate the questions that you're asking. Okay.
Yeah. So
Um,
maybe I'll wrap this up at just on these different topics because one of the big ones is meme coins and like Trump coin and all these different things. There's Doge and different. Just be very careful. I mean, there's a lot of attention. This is internet culture. It's a lot of speculation. They're not bad. I'm not saying they're bad, but what I am saying it's just not money. So there's a lot of
yeah,
things that are out
yeah.
there. Even though it's trading for money and doing different things on it, you really need to understand what's the utility here and what's going on. But the way I'll close this is Bitcoin. Yeah, Bitcoin. I mean, the Trump token and so forth. That's one, but there's so many. Dogecoin. You have all these different things that are out there. Again, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying this is internet culture, and
It,
there's a lot of speculation in that.
it's like
So
this. It's really simple. And by the way, get help. Like in a minute, we're going to give Jeff's contact info. You can reach out to him and his team. We're going to give you a lot of resources. Okay. So, like, you don't have to go at this alone. But at the same time, so first of all, something's too good to be true. It's too good to be true. I had a client of mine who actually built an entire crypto coin from scratch. My biggest thing for him was like make it do something. He didn't. It went up astronomically for like 3 days and then it just disappeared off the face of the earth. That just happens. And I think it would be really good to say, not giving financial advice. Like there's a reason why the top 10 or 20 projects are the top 10 or 20 projects. Those would be traditionally called blue chips. There's a reason why those companies have matured into the top 20, and that's kind of all I'll say about
Yes.
that for now.
Yeah.
So,
And
you
I
know,
mean, and I can't reiterate what Ed said as far as these companies, the way they're built, they are built with regulation in mind, even though we don't have a clear picture at this point here in the US. They are thinking of all those things because they know if they mess up, they're going to be out of business.
yeah.
And this is they're at the very beginning of this and they do not want to mess up. There's definitely been fraud in crypto, but when you think of technology, when you think of these cryptocurrencies and the blockchains from Bitcoin on down, the technology itself has not failed. That has worked. And that is, especially of these blue chip ones that Ed's mentioning, that has not failed. The technology works. It's just when you have various players, and that's where you need to be very careful. So you need to separate the two from that standpoint. So
And
can't
like I
be
said,
clear enough on that as far as
we're just
where it is.
doing the basics, what we can do in this hour that we have together. Like for example, Colleen says, "Can we use it as real money?" Yeah, you can buy stuff, you can sell stuff. It's becoming more and more common around the world for you to literally be able to take out your phone and make a transaction with cryptocurrency. I know that was true for us when we were in El Salvador,
Yep.
which is like the leading country. It's shame on us, by the way, that that country is
I'm
so much
happy to tell you a story about that, Ed. So
about El
I was
Salvador.
involved with El Salvador. El Salvador, so they added Bitcoin and they had to use wallets to give to all their all their citizens. And AWS played a massive role in that as far as the companies that were behind it, helping educate El Salvador, different things on that side. That's the type of conversations I was having when I was at AWS, not just with countries and so forth, but it was also with the companies themselves that were helping out. So Salvador is definitely way ahead of the game on that front.
Yeah, they have a whole place called Bitcoin Beach. Glenn and I went down there a couple times. So
So
for real, like
maybe, yeah, maybe should I just do a quick run on wallets? I won't go too deep, as you said, then we can get to questions. Is that, and then we can kind of go that route, or
yeah, and
what do
so
you think? Just given the
just kind of
time.
set the framework for this. There's exchanges where you put money in and you get your thing. That you can leave your money there. It's not as secure as having it in what's called a wallet. And look, if this is like you're like, I don't even know what he was just talking, it's okay. I'm just giving you permission
Yeah.
to just like you're at a buffet right now. You don't have to know everything about every food that's sitting out there. Just kind of take it all in. But wallets are traditionally a place where you hold your money like a real wallet. Did you hold your money? And Jeff will explain the difference between
Yeah. And I'll do this relatively quick, but Ed, you can't, I mean, the first time you read this or hear this or understand it, you're like, okay, what is this? How is this different? And how do we continue to learn? And that's my job is to help you on. That's kind of what that is why I created Kingdom Bitcoin was to understand that through God's terms. So when you think of wallet types, there's a number of them. As Ed was saying, I'll start with hot wallets. So, well, first of all, let me say this. When you have crypto, there's a line in crypto when it says not your keys, not your coins. And what that means is if you do not hold the keys, essentially use the analogy of a safe. If you do not have the keys to your personal safe, someone else does, then they're not really your, whatever's in that safe is not yours. So that's kind of the same principle as far as when you think about this. So not your keys, not your coins. That's a line that you will hear in the crypto world. And really what it gets down to is there's a key that is out there that is your master key to that safe. You control that. And if you have control of that, then you basically control that Bitcoin or that XRP or whatever it might be. So really important on that. So let's just go through this fairly quickly as far as hot wallets, what they mean. So hot wallets are what's called software wallets, or it's like a digital that's connected to the internet all the time. So essentially, think of your checking account on your phone, like when you have your app and you're on there all the time. And this is like great for if you're spending small amounts or using it daily, different ways of using that. So that's what a hot wallet would be. So think of that as like your checking account on your phone. Warm wallets are sometimes connected, but not all the time. So oftentimes this is what's considered like a custodial account or when you're at the exchange. So the exchange holds that on your behalf. It has strong security. There is liquidity, but you're not really using that for long-term savings. Whereas cold wallets, that's exactly why you have cold wallets. It is completely offline. It's not on the exchange. You will not get scammed on your cold wallet. So there's other things that you need to be mindful of when it comes to the cold wallet, but this is like putting your gold in a vault. This is where serious long-term savings belong. So it should be offline so people can't get at it. And then there's another component. And again, I could spend hours on talking about wallets and how and where you should use it. That's something I'm happy to go much deeper with all of you on. But there's multi-sig, which means think about like if you go to if you have a safe deposit keys where you need one key to get in, this is another person has to open that up. That's another way before a transaction can take place. So that's another safety mechanism that's put in place. What I will say when it comes to crypto, we're still very early. This is an area that will continue to improve. It's nowhere where it needs to be right now, but the people that are building, the companies that I was helping at Amazon and who I advise today, this is where I'm very intrigued at because it's like when I look at my parents, are they able to use it or not? And if they're not, then we still got a long ways to go. And
And they're
that's where
not,
there's a lot of this that's taking place
and they're
today.
not right now.
And they're not.
Just like answering that question. So
Yeah.
your parents aren't ready to do a cold wallet. Actually, maybe not even
Definitely not. So
like
they need help. They
so
need help on that.
so let me give you an example of like just to kind of make it as simple as possible. Again, if this wallet thing confuses you. Let's say you went on to Kraken, which I just recommended, and you're like, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to buy $200 in Bitcoin. So you buy $200 in Bitcoin. Now you have it sitting on what's called an exchange, which means it's just there. Like you kind of have it. You can trade it if you want to, but it's just not very secure, kind of sitting right there, plopping on that exchange. And so what you might do is you might get an app called Exodus. Exodus is a warm wallet. It's a digital wallet, and you would take your money and you would transfer it over. That's not actually that hard. You just copy and paste something and then you transfer it over and there you have it. Okay, now it's on there. Now it's a lot easier to hack into that piece of app that you have on your phone, which is why you might get a little device called a Trezor or a Ledger, which connects via USB to your computer and essentially locks and unlocks your account and might sit in a safe someplace or it might sit in a safe deposit box someplace, but you can't get your money without that, which means the scammer can't get your money without that, which means they probably can't get your money, right? And so my point in saying that is you could leave your money sitting there on the exchange if it's only 200 bucks, whatever, or but it's like $200,000, maybe you should be a little bit more secure when it comes to that. And if you understood what I just said, awesome. And if you had no idea what I was just talking about, that's okay too, because there's only a million YouTube videos that will explain all of this in great detail that you can rewind and go back and forward for. All right, cool. So I want to get to the part where we do a Q&A because we got a lot of
Yeah.
questions. I have 30 questions. I can guarantee you we're not going to get to all the questions, but I do want to pick some really important questions. But before I do that, go to the slide before that because what you're just going to talk is important. I don't want you to speed past this. Go backwards one slide. No, go back. Go back. Nope, go back one more. There, do that because that's important. What you
This
were just
one.
going to do is important. And then go to the next one.
Do this one right here. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Okay, yeah. So the big thing for me is how does God come into play on this? And there's
Yeah.
really three key things. It's truth, order, and stewardship. So in scripture, truth is not a concept. It's a person. It's God. Truth doesn't shift with politics, moods, or markets. As we see right now, crypto is kind of had a little bit of a down move, but it had a massive up move. That's why the blockchain hits our spirit different. It's not just tech, it's integrity made visible. So the rebirth of honest money is not rebellion, it's repentance, as I said earlier. And repentance means returning to truth, returning to honesty, returning to the scales that God delights in and how he looks at life and how he passes that on to us. So again, Genesis 1:3 in the beginning, truth. So as we move forward, it's like God builds with boundaries. He's like the kingdom doesn't run on chaos. Creation begins with God setting boundaries, light from darkness, sea from land, the Sabbath. There's so many different components that tap into this, and there's a lot of things that Bitcoin and crypto kind of tap into. And I'll speak to Bitcoin on this with the halving. I consider that the digital Sabbath without going too much into detail. There's a number of things that kind of come into play here, but again, the fixed supply is honest weights. There's 21 million, no more than that. You can't inflate it. You cannot manipulate it. So again, that goes back to Proverbs 11:1 that we talked about before. And the final point that I want to hit on is stewardship. It's not about how much you have, it's about what you do with what God entrusts you with. So remember the parable of the talents and everything that goes in that. The modern twist on the parable of talents is let's say you take your money and you put it in checking account earning 0.0001%. It's safe, but it's sterile. It's not really accumulating or taking what God gave you, his resources that he gave you, and building on it. Then you have person two who they follow the cultural wisdom of a 60% in stocks, 40% in bonds. They're very well diversified. But one thing that's going on is, especially when you have that kind of a mix, is we have inflation. How is that playing to it? How much is in cash? What's your purchasing power? What's going on there? Whereas person three, they study, they pray, they understand. And what Ed was saying is like, you may not hear, there's bits and pieces that you pick up here. What do you do to go forward, to learn more, to steward what God's given you and the sovereignty that comes with it? And that's where if someone were to allocate a part of it to Bitcoin or other crypto, it's not for speculation, but you have conviction of what this is about and what the economics behind it is. It's not fear, but it's really foresight. So stewardship is not about convenience, it's about obedience. And the big thing for me is Bitcoin is not just math, it's a mirror revealing who we trust, how we steward, and whether we build for this generation or the next. I tend to think in terms of 400 years, and that's something where Bitcoin will be here in 400 years. That is something I am convicted about and know it will be here. And again, remember, there's only 21 million tokens, and you don't have to buy one token. You can buy a very small, tiny part of Bitcoin. So it goes out 8 decimal points to the right. So just one thing on that. So I'll leave it at that, Ed, as far as from the
And by the way,
conversation as far as we
that's
got.
that's a really good place to start. Open up if you don't have any idea how to start. Go to Kraken, open up an account, take $200 or whatever you can afford, but put it into Bitcoin and forget about it for 3 years. I mean that like it just come back
That
3 years from
is
now.
that is
So
great advice. That is really
so
good. And
just
don't look
don't
at the
look at
price
it
every
every
day.
day. Don't look. Trust me. Here, come off the slide for a second because I just
Oh,
want me and you to talk for a minute, and
yeah.
then we'll share the slides again in a second. So okay, thank you, Craig. That's a really great big takeaway. Can you unshare your screen for a second?
Oh yeah, of
Um,
course.
so I'll put all the links back up there in a second. I'm gonna go straight to the point about our current currency. And I'm just gonna tell you a vision that God gave me and also how it came into Jeff, because I totally forgot. I gave you this prophetic word. We had dinner last January in Napa. Remember that steak place we went
Yep.
to? I can't remember the name, STK or whatever it was.
Oh,
There was a really good steak. That's all I remember. It was me, you, and Denise. You guys were engaged then, not married. And so anyway, I had this picture that God gave me about our current financial system, and I saw two scenarios. One scenario, I alluded to it earlier on. One scenario, if you can imagine a mushroom cloud nuclear explosion, that Cole's Chop House. Thank you, Denise. What's up, Denise? So, one scenario was a nuclear bomb mushroom cloud that went up 40,000 feet. And the other was like this nice little transition. Okay. And they were both pictures of what's possible with our current financial system. I'm speaking to the United States, but the United States is basically leads the world in terms of the finances. If our system crashes, the whole world system crashes. So I'm just saying it's the entire world system. And there are two options on the table right now. And I'm just going to be as clear as I can about this in terms of what I've seen in terms of my time with God seeing our financial system. It's not determined yet which one of these two it's going to be. Either our financial system will completely explode and have to be very quickly replaced by something, or there's going to be some really smart people that get into the game, and the current administration or the next administration will pull people together. By the way, they're actually kind of already doing this. You can see David Sachs in as cryptos are with the president, and they're going to begin to transition smartly into a new system. Whether it happens in a complete implosion or a very nice, gentle turn off to the off ramp or whatever, is up to the people who are leading our country and who are leading the monetary system of the world. It's up to the good and the evil that we're seeing faced right now. Either way, I want to look you in the eye and say, God will use either of these two scenarios to bless you if you position yourself into a place where you can receive his blessing. And without any ambiguity, I believe cryptocurrency is one of, not the only way, but one of the ways that God's going to use to create a wealth transfer into the hands of his people. Your job is really simple. You just need to spend a little bit of time getting to know this monetary system, okay? It's not that hard. I know you're like, sometimes you look at things and you're like, I don't even know where to start. I told you where to start. Start with a few $100s, and just watch a few YouTube videos. Now, some of you are going to want to go deeper. And I have asked Jeff to do this, like I did last week with Robert, like I did at the event, okay, with Lisa Bruton. Anyone that I believe in, that I go to for advice, I want to give you an opportunity to do that. Now, it's not going to be free. If you want to work with Jeff one on one and you want to go the next step and really work with somebody who's, look, I don't know anyone in the world who knows crypto better than him. Okay. And I know a lot of people. I've spoken at crypto conferences. I know a lot of people in this industry. I don't know anyone as smart as him. And what's more important, this is really important. All the people I know who are smart, I know people have built literally entire blockchains. The thing about it is they're not kingdom people who speak your language, okay? And you want to talk to somebody who's connecting with God on a daily basis, who's hearing from him, who's seeing prophetically the same way that I'm seeing about the world. Okay, so for a few minutes, Jeff's going to tell you, like, here's some ways that you can work together. While he's doing that, I'm going to put the link to the exchange back on there. I'm going to put the link to Jeff's email. I'm going to give you his email address. And he's also going to give you a QR code. So, like, get your phone ready or whatever. Even if you miss the QR code, you're going to be able to get it in the email address. But go back to Jeff, just talk a little bit about how someone can get help. And then we're going to spend 15 or 20 minutes doing questions. And then we're going to wrap it up. Go.
Yeah, so two things you can do. One, I have a website. It's kingdom-bitcoin.com. And Jack, if you could put that in the chat, that'd be
I'll do,
awesome.
I'm putting
So
your email in there right now.
kingdom-bitcoin.com. And there I talk about all the different things with a lens of God, and how he's involved and what's going on and current topics. And it's a great way to learn as far as what takes place.
There's
Then
a
I
lot
also
of
have,
information there.
yeah, it's one of those things where I recently started it and it's just, yeah, I'm loving it and the feedback has been terrific. And it's a calling that I received a vision from God that I needed to do this. And it's something that, beyond what Ed has shared and like his prophetic words, I've gotten other prophetic words, but it's something where I get visions from God and it's like, this is on me to do it. So, this is me obeying and going through with what God's put in. He's given me this skill set. So let's go. So that's where I'm able to help on that front. There's another side of what I can do on a one-on-one basis. I will create this one-to-many type group intensive program, but then that involves an initial call with me. We'll have two-hour sessions, over a 2-week period, and then I'll have a follow-up one-on-one call with each person that joins that. So there's an event that will be in January where we'll be taking care of that. So, actually, I think I can share. Maybe I'll share this to kind of show this real quick. But it's one of those things where if you want, feel free. You can reach out to. This is one of those things where reach out to me and I'll let you know if this is for you or not. It's one of those things where I just want to be very clear on that as far as if you're getting into this. Obviously, this is a lot of money as far as what that looks like. But from my standpoint, it's what can I do? If this means something for you, we can work something out as far as where that goes. So, for me, it's more about, if this is the right program for you or not. But then what I will do on Kingdom Bitcoin is there will be countless resources that will continue to add to that to where you can go learn about wallets, you can learn about all these different cryptos as far as what's going on. And again, it's not financial advice. This is more consulting education. That's really what that's all about. It's how to educate everyone who's on this call. And I'd love to get 8 billion people to look at this and understand it through the lens of God, of what that looks like. So that's how I think big and where we go after it. But again, everything I'm doing now in my life, I didn't do it as much when I was at Amazon, but everything I do now is through the lens of God, and what that means. So those are the ways to, if you want, feel free. If you can't do that QR code, you can simply email me info@kingdom-bitcoin.com. Just put Ed Rush in the subject line, and just give me a couple little bits and pieces of what you're looking for, things on that, and then I'll follow up. So,
Great. All right.
that I'll
So
turn it over to you, Ed.
who's this right for? Kind of like brainstorm with you. If you're totally new, but you do have some investable assets and you're like, you know what, I'd like to get started, but I think I'd like a little bit of help, maybe have someone answer some questions. Like Jeff put on there, neither one of us are licensed traders, so this isn't like officially financial advice. I think it's safe to say though, if you're in that one-on-one conversation with Jeff, you're going to have a pretty good idea what he likes and what he doesn't like. I'm just saying, like, there's a difference between saying I'm going to give you financial advice and it's something else altogether. Like, for example, you've already heard in this session, he mentioned it, I mentioned it. Jeff's like, Ed really likes XRP. I do. I think it's a really good project and I think it has a really good use case. Is that financial advice? Yeah, not really, because I can't give financial advice. But did Ed just say he likes it? Yeah, he did. Like, I did. I mentioned all of the blue chips and thought, I said, like, there's a reason those companies are there. And my point is, like, you're going to be working with somebody who, like I said, knows more about everything than anyone. So why would you just go blindly into some trading decision when at the very least you could bounce ideas off of someone who goes like, "Hey, what do you think about this project?" And he goes, "Yeah, I've worked with," and he names the leadership team and tells you why they're reputable people. That's important to know that. That's certainly, I mean, like, he and I are friends, but it's certainly the kind of thing that we do together with all different kinds of things. And you get an opportunity to work one on one with him, which is awesome. I don't think that is an opportunity that's going to be around for all that long. You
Not
get
too long.
an initial call with Jeff, which you can probably schedule that anytime you want to. You get a 2 hour session per week, which will deconflict from the other stuff that we're doing here. You get a 30-minute one on one call, which is really good. And then the Signal community will be great because you're going to be able to share ideas with the other people that are in that group. One way or another, email info at kingdom Bitcoin. Again, it's right for you if you're kind of new, you don't know where to start. It's also right for you if you're like me, you've been in the game for a little while, but you're not sure, is this like a good idea or is this a good idea or should I like wait for a little while? There's a lot of decisions that you may be making right now, especially with the market the way that it is. And I don't know how far it's going to continue down. The market is definitely down 30 to 40% off its highs, which is a great advantage for you. It's awesome. Look, by the way, the market goes up, it's awesome because then you're making money, and the market goes down, it's awesome because you get to put some more money in and have an opportunity to like maximize your gains. So anyway, the information's on the screen, the email's on the screen. I'll pop it back into chat. But any last minute thoughts, Jeff, before we go to the Q&A?
No, I'll just add one thing that you said there, Ed. I'll also give frameworks around those different blockchains of how to look at them and what to think, what are the big things and you can take that information and do with what you want. That's where I think the real key is understanding where the builders are, what's going on. I will show you the tricks and trade on that. That's a lot of what this program will do.
Yeah. The thing about the builders is actually really important. I mentioned this before, but the really good projects are the ones that do something. Those have those have engineering teams behind them that are or coding teams really that are creating a ecosystem to create revenue inside of the company over and against what that particular coin is worth. I mentioned XRP, why that's important. Ethereum certainly does that. Avalanche, which you've worked with, works essentially as a processing system for transactions. So there's a lot of really great programs out there, but it would be good to get a lot of help, the kind of help uh, from Jeff. Glenn says people don't see a market downturn for what it is. It's a sale. Yeah,
It's
it's
on
all
sale.
good. It's all good as long as you do like this sign behind me says, "Let go for dear life." There's a phrase in the Bitcoin crypto world called HODL. Yeah, hold on
Hold
for dear
on.
life.
Your life.
You have to be willing to go at this. Like, look, if you're trying to make an extra $10,000 in the next week, this is not the place for you. Okay. Look at it like, hey, how can I put 200, 500, $1,000 in every single month for the next 3 years and not even think about it? And then 3 years later, be like, oh man, or when there's a huge market event, when there's that big mushroom cloud or this off ramp, you're like, oh man, I'm so glad that I listened to this. And I'll say this and then I'll pitch it back to you. If you feel like you're behind, you're not. You're watching a program right now on cryptocurrency that to this day, still probably 90% of the world has no clue about. So you are ahead of the game still. That will not be true 3 years from now, but it is right now. So if you're interested in like getting started or maximizing what you've currently started, or you want to know more, or you want to go deeper, now's a really great time. The market's down. The world still hasn't fully adopted it. Like Colleen asked a question about spending and trading. It's going to be within the next few years. I'm not kidding. You're going to be able to just you can actually do it. You can do it right now, but it's going to be mainstream. You're going to walk up to the Whole Foods thing and go boop, and you're going to pay with one, two, three, four, five, one of your 10 selected cryptocurrencies. Okay. That's the direction that we're going. And it's not far along from that. I'll put my links back in there as well. So for those of you who are asked. All right, Jeff, back to you, and then we'll do the Q&A.
Yeah, well, that is a perfect way to end it. Like as far as just what Ed was saying there, when you think about it in terms of this, the banks are barely coming into this right now. They're definitely coming in. I've been working with banks for 5+ years, trying to help them out all around the world and where the regulation was, all that. Think about when they come into it. Right now, 50 million, there's 50 million active people that are in crypto, but there's 8 billion people in the world. And just where we're going and the money that will be coming this way, as far as how the technology, where that goes, we're literally, yes, you may have missed a great move here, but not many people were part of that move. It's one of these things. This is when I still think I'm a hockey player, former hockey player. This is the pregame skate, and we're just starting to get to the national anthem and about ready to go. That's probably the way that I would equate it to
Yeah.
when you look at that. If you compare it to the internet, Ed, I would say this: we're probably in 1998 if you compare it to the internet. So thinking about Amazon's around, it's been there, those kinds of things. Uh, just we're still very early, and there's a lot of innovation that's going to take place in this space.
All right. So the information's on the screen. Let's pop off the share, Jeff. We'll just do some Q&A, the two of us. I'm going to ask some questions and let you answer them. Um, and there's a lot of questions in here about like, what do you think about this? And should I invest in this? Just a reminder, this is two guys telling their stories and education only, not investment advice. But we will talk about sort of like, what to think about with each of these things. So like, for example, Richard asked a question about ETFs. Like one of the big talking points on the news right now are the Bitcoin or the crypto ETFs that are out there. What are your thoughts on the ETFs in terms of that investing there versus in the projects themselves? What do you think about that?
So back in January 2024, so nearly 2 years ago, ETFs became a real thing where people could buy into crypto and all that through the ETF. The one thing I will say is you're not actually buying crypto. So it depends on the ETF that you're buying and what they're doing, what their plans are. Are they buying Bitcoin themselves or XRP? So there's different components of that. It is definitely a way to get in and be exposed to this segment, but I will make it very clear, you are not buying the outright crypto if you're doing an ETF. You're buying what that manager, how they deem and how they buy and sell and what they do as far as where it is and how they look at it. There's different things that they're doing with this DeFi world without going too deep down the rabbit hole here. But again, there's other things that they can do to generate returns within those ETFs. So there's a number of different things, and each ETF's a little bit different. And you are seeing ETFs across the board from Bitcoin to Ethereum to XRP to one just came out on Chainlink this week. So there's all these things are kind of popping up and going through. But again, this is where financial advisors are very important. But I will say this, those advisors don't know the space very well. So
So
how do you understand that as to where it goes? So it's kind of we're in
there's,
this very early stages of where it is.
by the way, it's great. It's great that so the ETFs came out of this need. So you've got these financial advisors. And by the way, if you're a financial advisor, don't take what I'm about to say. Like, I'm just talking to you as a guy. Okay. The financial advisor world is like the 2025 version of a blacksmith. Like everybody needed a blacksmith. And then at some point, no one needed a blacksmith. You're like, why would I need a blacksmith? I'm just driving my car. And that's what the financial advisors are. So that is an obsolete industry that is fighting for its relevance. And nobody needs to pay some. I'm just like, don't get mad at me if you're a financial advisor. Maybe you should like look closely at what I'm saying. And so what happened was there was a whole bunch of people who were like investing with these guys who were like, oh, I have special access to this fund or whatever. And they're like, hey, can I invest in Bitcoin with my IRA? Can I invest in Bitcoin with my 401k? Can I invest in Bitcoin with my savings? And the answer to that, by the way, is yes to all those questions. But
Mhm.
the financial advisors had no vehicle to do that. So then they created Bitcoin exchange traded funds, ETFs, so that their clients could invest in Bitcoin. They weren't really investing in Bitcoin, but at least they could follow the ups and downs of Bitcoin. The positive of that is when the big players are all of a sudden interested in something, you're getting closer to mass adoption. Okay. So that's what I'll simply say about that. If you're going to invest in Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, go to an exchange like Kraken, invest in it on your own, and do your own research. That's all I have to say about that. So,
And
good.
I'll add one more thing on ETFs too, just so people have a context. Up until this move down, we had close to $200 billion come into those ETFs. It was the best ETF launch of all time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
compared to gold, to anything, just to give people a sense, this is how people kind of got into it. But that said, what are you doing? So I'll just give you a sense of we're very early days, but just think about from a launch standpoint, it's the best ever when you think about
Yeah.
ETFs.
Yeah. Huge, 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 huge. We're on the on the cusp of a
And
huge market adoption curve. Huge. So, and you're in the beginning of it still. We're still in the beginning, even though it's going like this. Go.
everyone on this call is a pioneer in this
Yeah,
space,
yeah,
just to tell you.
yeah. Joanne asks, how much is Kraken? Zero. They don't charge you a fee. You don't get charged like a monthly thing. You get charged on the transaction. The way most of those exchanges work is they'll buy and sell a little bit of a different number, and they make the spread. That's it. Okay, so like most, that's how it works. That's how pretty much all of it works. By the way, speaking of gold, Tracy says, is this better than investing in gold, or are there pro and cons? No, we're not going to tell you better or worse. But what do you think about this? Like, for a while, people were saying Bitcoin was like digital gold, but then it sort of, instead of going opposite the market, it actually started tracking with the market. What do you think about?
Yeah, so I mean, if you look at the history of gold to Bitcoin from a price standpoint, Bitcoin usually, at least in the last couple of years, it's like it trails like the move. The moves are much greater in Bitcoin than they are in gold, but they usually trail by 3 months. So if you look at what gold's done on the all-time highs, Bitcoin then followed. But what I'm saying from a percentage standpoint, Bitcoin will be a much bigger move as far as where it goes than what gold has done from a traditional sense, and even silver for that matter. But just to give you a sense of that, it is digital gold, just kind of how I said, where it's a lot easier to move than it is gold, and it's got similar principles, but there's definitely differences as far as what goes into it and how you're able to move it. You can chop it in bits and pieces, whereas gold is pretty hard to do that from a standpoint of outside of jewelry, but from a payment standpoint. But there is definitely, I mean, I think, and again, not financial advice and so forth, you definitely see people, high net worth individuals and people on that front who I spend a lot of time with that have both in their portfolio for sure.
So here's a question that kind of goes back to what we're talking about in terms of security. Kathy says, I don't understand blockchain or Bitcoin, uh, but I don't want a government to go into my bank like they did in Canada and punish
Yeah.
or rob the Patriot truckers. Is this system safe? Like, is it secure? Talk
Great
about that.
question. It's one of my favorite questions because every 10 minutes, the Bitcoin blockchain is audited. When was the last time the US Fed was audited? When was the last time Fort
Maybe that's
Knox
why
was
your
audited?
internet
Fort
is
Knox was
having
audited.
problems.
When was the last time, and I can speak for Canada too on this front, when was the last time they were audited? The security, every 10 minutes, it becomes more secure from a Bitcoin standpoint and other cryptocurrencies. Now, each of them have their own different set of parameters, so I won't speak to each and every one of them because there's millions of tokens that are out there, but the real big ones, there's probably like 20,000. So from the standpoint of that, just that again is where you need to go in deep and understand what the economics and the word in crypto is tokenomics really is. But what I will say is from a Bitcoin standpoint, it's audited every 10 minutes and it is as secure comes. And it would take within a 10-minute period, the biggest quantum computers, once they get to that point, because this is a big thing that's coming up, it would be very hard to not only have the financial wherewithal behind it, plus that 10-minute window to be able to take over the entire network. It's just not going to happen. Just in every 10 minutes, it becomes more and more secure. And like I said, it's audited every 10 minutes.
Yeah, good. A couple quick ones. Can you utilize a cold wallet in a self-directed IRA? Yes. The answer is yes. Your advisor, whoever you're doing, like, might not, but I don't imagine you're self-directed because you have an advisor. So Chris and many others ask questions about scammers. I'll do like a quick, super quick one, and then I'll pass it to you, Jeff. So the first thing is, nothing's ever like 100% secure. Obviously, like if like the world's greatest hacking team from, Catch Me If You Can decided they really wanted to get after your thing, they could probably find a way. But in general, if you're trying to keep money away from scammers, scammers are essentially going to go like water to the lowest common denominator. So make yourself like a hard target, right? Simple password stuff like that you learned growing up is really important. Don't take a call or text or email and reply to it. Like if you're going to go into your system, log in and contact the people directly sitting in the system. Some basic security like having Ledger or Trezor or some sort of cold wallet will help you there, especially if you're holding on to larger amounts. Like I said, make yourself a little bit more of a difficult target. It's the reason why people have lost money in it is because people send a mass text message wait for three people to respond, get them on the phone, continue to update their 6 digit key that the company keeps sending you. Then they get in and the money's gone. Okay. So just don't do that. So what do you think?
Yeah, the advice is spot on. I mean, there's definitely additional tricks we can go in with great detail, but just simple, like when you see spam emails, what's your radar? Is it something you click on or is it something you don't? And it's be very, very mindful of where those links are coming from, those phone calls that are coming from the Coinbases and Krakens of the world. They aren't calling you. So there's other ways that they're communicating with you. So it's like be very, very sensitive to what you're doing and just have your heads up as far as what's taking place. And to Ed's point, if you have a certain dollar amount that you just know you're not going to be using, take it off the exchanges because you want to have that in your control. And there's a number of ways to do that and this has gotten so much better than when I started in this world. I mean, we literally had paper back when I started, and you had to inscribe things on a metal piece and all that. And it's like, we're way past that. So it's like, thankfully, technology is starting to catch up. So there's a lot of ways to make this much simpler.
Yeah. All right, let's do like I just going through the questions and there's a lot of like, what do you think about this? And give me the top three things to invest in and how should I like so big broad brush. Like we talked about this a couple times, but for somebody starting out, or let's say somebody's already invested in a couple little things, what are your sort of big picture thoughts, you know?
Yeah, so for me, thinking long term. So I'm not, am I, and this is coming from someone who used to be a former trader, like basically a prop trader. So I used to trade for a living, when I would trade bonds and all those things. But for me, this is a buy and hold, and kind of goes to what Ed was thinking. So that's my, just so you get, and you always have to think in your timelines. Are you thinking in the next 30 days? Or are you thinking in the next 30 years? Or are you thinking the next three generations? How are you looking at? So that's something that I'm thinking as I kind of go through and get to learn what people are looking at. But the biggest thing for me is I'm always constantly trying to understand where is real utility happening in these different blockchains and what's taking place and where are the builders building. Kind of like Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. And that's kind of how I look at this. Just having worked at AWS and know who those builders were that were creating the apps that we all use, how are they then tying into the different blockchains and what are they doing? So where there's definitely a lot of different tricks and ways to get that information and understand that. And those to me are the ones that are successful as far as if you're looking for a longer term horizon. But then there's others that what's number 80 today on the list that if you go, and I'll give you another website, everyone, it's Messari, Messari I.io. Masari, I'll type it in. Masari.io. That's a great resource for a lot of um actually it's just Masari. Sorry. But it's one of those things where to go there would be a great place to like just to get an understanding, get basics understanding to what's going on with the different cryptos. But again, they start giving builder insight, things on that front, but there's a lot of other ways to understand that. And that's if you're a sophisticated investor as you, and I think there's a lot of people that are in stocks and bonds and they hand it over to either to a financial advisor or someone else. We can give you the tools to kind of help you to get understand. But at the end of the day, do what Ed says. Look at those top 20 tokens that are out there, get an understanding of what they do, and then what do you like? And then play, get involved and put a little bit in there. But what I'd suggest is you could lose a lot of money in the first couple of days and then it'll come right back. So anyone who's had Bitcoin for more than 4 years has made money. Every single person who has if you've held Bitcoin for longer than 4 years, you are up no matter what time you bought it at. So obviously the people in the last 2 months haven't had it for 4 years, but my guess is they're going to be in good shape.
And
So
what Jeff said, he said three years or three generations. You should be thinking in between 3 years and three generations. If you're thinking about 3 months, man, I would love to double my money. You might. It might go in half too, honestly. So
yep.
you can't like ride. If you ride the waves, you're gonna go crazy. I tried doing that for a little while. By the way, speaking of riding the waves, Kelsey Evans says I used Ed's link to buy $200 worth of Bitcoin on Kraken, and now it says my account is worth $395. And I have to just say, I don't have that effect on everyone, Kelsey. But I guess sometimes I think what they did, just because when you do use that link, they give you $75 after your first transaction, and I think they literally gave you the $75. I'm imagining Kraken feels like they're going to get that money back at some point in their future. So I put the link back in there. I can't guarantee I can't guarantee similar financial results. I cannot guarantee that you will double your money like Kelsey did the moment that she clicked on my link. But I do want to, I would hit another question. Uh, Evelyn said, she said, hey, why are believers generally speaking lower or slower to adopt or skeptical of cryptocurrency? And why aren't we seeing more believers speaking about it? I have to say, Evelyn, I think with this one thing, I find this interesting because Christians are really slow on the internet, really slow to adopt social media, really slow to like we've been behind on everything because like the devil's, supposedly, whatever. I actually think in this one instance, I've seen a lot of kingdom people as really early adopters. When I was going to those Bitcoin conferences and speaking back in 2015, there were a lot of libertarians, honestly. It was a lot of libertarians in that early days, man. A lot of the gold standard people, but a lot of those were believers. So I feel like it's almost more credence to this idea of the wealth transfer thing because I feel like we have a lot of people who are on the edge of this, like getting started. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's for me, we've always looked at technology and the Christian world, we're always way behind. And I'm trying to get ahead of it. I'll give you an example. So like I tithe in crypto. So a lot of the advisory roles that I have, I'll tithe, and I'm glad that the churches are accepting it. But there's where the problem is. They accept it and they right away turn in the US dollars. And had they held it, like in a few of these instances, a month later, 2 months later, it doubled, tripled, and did much more. And so it's how this is one of the reasons why I created what I created with Kingdom Bitcoin. How do we educate not just the Christian world, but Christian leaders so that we can get ahead of this and start thinking of what are we doing to plant the mustard seeds today that 10, 20, 200, 300 years from now are just growing and blossoming. So it's like looking at it through that lens as far as where it is. I do think there's definitely we still have room to grow. There's definitely a lot of people from the Christian world that are in this, and there's some very well-positioned people. Now, what I'm trying to do, and I think what a few other people are trying to do is like, how do we bring the Christian world to this? And what's the unique way of doing that to just bring more awareness. At the end of the day, we need to educate ourselves around what this is and what's going on and how it plays in our lives. So this kind of goes hand in hand with what you do at God Talks, Ed, which I've loved going, like being in Dallas. I was in San Diego, the different events that you host and how just the business world. These are some of the brightest people in our country, and they have a Christian background. What do we do
Yeah.
to help motivate them to move forward? So, I mean, you're doing outstanding work on that side.
So, I have one other question, and then I just want you to just wrap up. But before I do that, Jeff said the most important thing only 3 minutes ago. He said, "Do what Ed says." I thought that's like the best advice you could ever give anybody. I'm just playing around. Let me just give you a couple thoughts for those folks who are just sort of like, again, you're just thinking about it, or maybe you're in it a little bit. You're trying to figure out where to allocate funds or whatever. We just gave some really big general principles, right? The first one is be in it kind of for the long term, not kind of the ride up and down. Like, don't go crazy if it goes in half, which it will, or it double. Don't get too excited if it triples because it'll do that too. It's a very volatile, and it's very volatile because it's early. We're early in the game. Um, the second one is it's always valuable sometimes when you look at a project, not only to see what it does, but who's in charge and who's operating it. The people behind those things is actually really important. I will tell you, I have no idea if this is going to happen. I would say if I had to bet, I would say it's probably a 50-50 proposition. But about 6 months ago, Eric Trump, the son of the president, said that they were looking at potentially eliminating capital gains taxes for United States-based crypto projects. What that means is if you have $100,000 and you invested and you make $100,000, you're going to get hit on capital gains for the $100,000 that you made. And what they said was they may be taking that away, or actually at least considering taking that away for US based companies. US based cryptos would be like XRP would be one of those. Brad Garlinghouse is the CEO. Cardano, which I think is ADA. I think that's like the ticker symbol. There's a couple
Yes.
other ones that are out there. But my point in saying that is like maybe you want to consider where the business is that's running that. Is it in China or is it in the United States? I'm not saying that you should choose based on that. I'm just saying it's one of the considerations. The capital gains thing may or may not happen. Congress may punt it out the window for all I know because Elizabeth Warren hates crypto. But those are some of the other considerations. Some of the other considerations are maybe just getting together with people that you know on a Telegram or Signal app and just be sharing ideas like Jeff's offering with that group of people that are going to be working together, because you can all learn from other people that are learning. Okay, it just, like I said, just get conversational and start to know, like, if you just go back and through your notes on what we taught, you know more than most of the people do anyway. Um, the last question, and then I'm going to have you pick it up, and I'll start on the last question. Anna says, "Do you think it's wise to shift investment focus more towards crypto and more away from traditional investments?" Um, so I'm going to give you this and my answer. This is what I've done, Anna. This is not my investing recommendation. I've moved more of my attention away from the traditional market. Not that I don't have investments there. I've moved my attention away from the traditional market into what you would consider more non-traditional. I do a lot of my investing in companies that I believe in because I have a pretty good eye when it comes to companies. I've moved quite a bit of my investment over to crypto because I believe in it. I've got still some investment in like traditional precious metals, which has been pretty good for the last couple of months. And like I said, in the traditional market and certainly in real estate. So I'm all over the place in terms of diversified, but I have shifted quite a bit of my attention to businesses that I invest in, startups, and crypto, because I'm more interested in kingdom multiplication numbers: 10x, 1000x, 10x, 100x, 1000x. With that shift also comes significantly increased risk. I was asked by a family member recently. They were like, "Hey, as you grow older, it's kind of common for you to become more risk averse, but it seems like you're." I go, "Yeah, I'm totally going in the opposite direction. I am a fighter pilot. I'm happy with risk. Anytime I invest in something, I say goodbye, and I hope to see it again, but I might not." And my point is, as a kingdom-minded investor, I think that it is often wise to put some money in play that could potentially 1000x, not all of it, but some of it, because you're looking to create wells for God's blessing. Anyway, Jeff, I'm going to pass it to you. I'd love your thoughts on that, and then wrap it up. Show them the QR code again, and then we'll begin to wrap up for today. Those are all the questions we'll
Yeah.
take, by the way. Thank you. You asked some really great questions, but we took the
Yeah.
most
And
ones that.
Ed, I do have a copy of all the Q&A questions, so I'll see what I can do. We could
Okay,
talk about
cool.
that offline. But
Cool.
anyways, so Ed and I come from a very similar school. I do advise and love investing in startups, so there's very much risk there. But from a crypto standpoint, me in 2014, when I first bought Bitcoin to where I am today, I mean, it's definitely one of those things where Bitcoin's a bigger percentage of my portfolio. I definitely have a number of other things where I'm diversified. It's one of those things that comes down to your risk tolerance. If you have risk tolerance that's willing to see these volatilities, we didn't really get to it, but there's been 9 different times where over 50% drawdowns in crypto and Bitcoin have happened. And and in each of those times, I was still convicted, never sold. So just to give you a sense, that's just I'm a trader. I have conviction in that trade and what that is, but again, I'm not like everybody. So again, it's your risk preference, and also talking to your financial advisor and just understanding more and more why this money is going to what it is. And then as far as that, no, I appreciate it, Ed. So again, just go to kingdom-bitcoin.com. Check me out there. Please subscribe, and if you have questions, fire questions off in that too, because I'll be writing about countless things. And a lot of these questions here are going to definitely help with what I'm going to be writing on too going forward. So, but this is
Cool.
awesome. I can't thank you enough, Ed, Eamon, and
Yeah.
team. It's been fantastic. So really appreciate it.
It's great. We probably it would probably good to do another one maybe 6, 8 months from now, just to kind of go back
Yeah.
through some old principles, maybe talk about some new stuff. This is obviously like a really developing thing. I have to say, like, when I first started out in this, I didn't know anything. I was really confused by it, and there were terms that people were using that I thought I needed to know, which now I know, but I realized I didn't need to know. Like, for example, you don't need to know how blockchain works. You don't need to know how a hash works. You don't need to know how transaction keys are sent across, um, and the mechanics behind that. I was taught all that stuff like when I first learned, and I thought that was important, and it's not. It's not at all. The fundamentals that we're teaching you today are way more important, and certainly the spiritual fundamentals are the most important. Just understand that God is in the business of blessing His people, but it would be really good if you gave Him some avenues to be able to do that, and you received it from Him. And I'm not saying crypto is the only way, but make no mistake, it is one of the ways I believe God's going to do the great wealth transfer that we've been talking about for an entire, 10 years or whatever. And it would be it would behoove you just to at least be conversant enough and invested enough to be able to give yourself a shot on that. Okay. I'm going to drop the resources back in there. The first one is just my link, my affiliate link to Kraken. The second one is if you want some more help, like if you feel like, I'm not sure I want to sign up for an online system, I'd like to talk to someone on the phone on a trade desk. Glenn and Jesse from Coin Trading will be able to help you and just answer some questions, maybe help you set up your wallets and stuff like that. And then if you want to get coached, and I recommend that you do, that's what I would do if I was you. I will only choose to work with the best. I'm trying to be around 4-minute milers. It's the reason why Jeff and I are friends. It's the reason why we're on text together all the time. Okay. So if you're looking to get help, it's really actually very inexpensive to work with a guy who is absolutely at the top of his game. You're going to get the answers to your questions. Put the QR code. Well, the email's up there, right here. Here, Jeff's email is here. I think if I can drop it into chat, hang on a second. Here, let me hit enter on that. There we go. Info at kingdom-bitcoin.com. Get connected with Jeff. Thanks, dude. We had 54 unanswered questions.
I have them all. I will see what
Oh,
I
you
can
do? All right. That's good. That's
I
good.
copied them. So that's one of my things, making sure people get their answers.
And Delisa can help you with that too.
We'll see
I
what we
think
can do.
we've got that there. So, all right, my man. I love you and I like
Cool.
you. And have a great Christmas, everybody.
Likewise.
We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
See you, buddy.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Recording
Bye.
stopped.